The small roadside diner was nearly empty when Daniel Carter walked in with his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Rain tapped softly against the windows while the warm smell of fried chicken and fresh bread filled the air. Daniel looked exhausted after another 12-hour shift at the warehouse, but the moment Lily smiled at him, he forgot about his aching back for a second. He brushed rainwater from his jacket and helped her into a seat beside the window. "You did great on your school test today," he said proudly, sliding the menu toward her. Lily's eyes sparkled. "Can I get fries too?" she asked carefully, already knowing money was tight. Daniel smiled anyway. "Tonight, you can have anything you want." It wasn't fully true. He only had enough cash left for one decent meal before payday, but after losing his wife 3 years earlier, he had promised himself Lily would never feel unloved. The waitress brought their food a few minutes later, crispy chicken, fries, and 2 lemon sodas. Lily's face lit up like Christmas morning. Daniel leaned back for the first time that day, happy just watching his daughter eat. But then he noticed someone near the exit. A woman stood quietly beside the door holding the hand of a little girl no older than 5. The woman's coat was thin and damp from the rain, her hair messy from the wind, and her tired eyes stayed fixed on the cashier. The little girl, however, wasn't looking at the counter. She was staring directly at Daniel's plate of food. Not in a rude way. Not like a spoiled child wanting snacks. It was the kind of stare that came from real hunger. Daniel knew that look because he had once seen Lily make the same expression after they'd gone 2 days eating almost nothing. The woman gently pulled her daughter's hand and whispered something, clearly trying to leave unnoticed. She looked embarrassed, almost ashamed. The little girl obeyed, but before turning away, she glanced one last time at the fries on Daniel's table. That single look hit him harder than he expected. He watched them reach for the door, and without thinking, he stood up. "Excuse me," he called out softly. The woman froze immediately, her shoulders tightening as if she expected trouble. Daniel quickly raised a hand. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." The woman turned slowly. Up close, she looked exhausted, maybe in her early 30s, but life had clearly been cruel to her lately. "Can I help you?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked toward the little girl. "Would your daughter like something to eat?" The woman's face instantly turned red with embarrassment. "No, thank you," she answered quickly. "We're fine." But the little girl lowered her head at the exact moment her stomach growled loudly enough for all of them to hear. Silence filled the diner. Daniel's heart sank. Lily looked from the child to her father, then softly pushed her own plate forward. "She can have some of mine," she whispered. The woman looked like she might cry right there. "That's very kind," she said shakily, "but we can't accept charity." Daniel understood pride. He truly did. Pride was sometimes the only thing poor people had left. So instead of arguing, he smiled gently. "Then don't call it charity," he said. "Call it 2 dads and daughters sharing dinner on a rainy night." The woman stared at him for several seconds before finally nodding. Her little girl's eyes widened with excitement as they sat down across from Daniel and Lily. The waitress brought extra plates while the little girl ate carefully at first, trying not to seem too hungry. But within minutes, she was devouring fries faster than Daniel had ever seen. Her mother looked away, wiping tears from her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Daniel felt something heavy in his chest. "You don't need to apologize for surviving," he replied quietly. Over dinner, he learned the woman's name was Sarah and her daughter was Emma. Sarah had recently lost her apartment after missing rent payments while caring for Emma during a long illness. Since then, they had been sleeping in her old car. Daniel could hardly believe it. Emma looked so small sitting there in her oversized sweater, happily eating chicken nuggets like it was the greatest meal of her life. Lily quickly became friends with her, laughing and sharing ketchup packets like they'd known each other forever. For the first time in months, Sarah smiled too. A real smile. Daniel noticed how different she looked when hope briefly replaced exhaustion. When dinner ended, Sarah thanked him repeatedly and prepared to leave. But outside, the rain had become a storm. Daniel glanced through the window and saw Sarah guiding Emma toward an old broken-down car parked across the street. Something didn't feel right. He looked at Lily, who was already watching him carefully. "Dad," she whispered, "they can't sleep in that car tonight." Daniel closed his eyes for a second. He barely had enough money for himself and Lily. His apartment was tiny. Life was already hard. But then he remembered all the strangers who had once helped him after his wife died, people who expected nothing in return. Maybe this was his turn now. He grabbed his jacket and hurried outside into the rain. "Sarah," he called. She turned nervously. Daniel hesitated for only a moment before speaking. "I know this sounds strange, but I have a couch. It's not much, but you and Emma shouldn't stay out here tonight." Sarah looked shocked. "We can't do that." "You can," Daniel replied softly. "And tomorrow we'll figure things out." Sarah's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't only tears of shame. They were tears of relief. Emma smiled brightly while Lily cheered from the diner doorway. And in that moment, standing under the pouring rain beside flickering streetlights, four struggling people who had entered the diner as strangers suddenly felt like something closer to family. Daniel didn't know it yet, but that quiet decision, the simple act of noticing a hungry little girl staring at his plate, was about to change all of their lives forever. And sometimes, that's how hope begins. Not with grand speeches or miracles. Just one person deciding not to look away. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change lives.